Metal Sonic. Love him or hate him, he's a classic Sonic character. Very well liked within the fandom as well, mostly, aside from people just straight up calling him a fraud, but we're not talking about that right now. And Metal Sonic is my second favorite character in the Sonic series and in general. We already know who the first one is. And one time I remembered, hey, I had one time made a Metal Sonic game idea. One that specifically was a roguelike game utilizing his biodata copying. And I'm like, hey, that's a good idea to make a video about. So that's what this is. Firstly, though, I gotta address two things. First of all, base Metal Sonic does have biodata copying, and it's not just Neo Metal Sonic. That is a very common misconception, but base Metal Sonic does have the ability to copy biodata. And secondly, I need to explain what a roguelike is. So a roguelike is a game such as TMNT Splintered Fate or Vampire Survivor or, games like that where you run through different stages, his levels, etc. And throughout a run, you constantly get new upgrades that are temporary for the run, and then if you die, you lose all the upgrades or whenever the run ends. And there's also permanent upgrades usually, I think. Usually. I don't actually play that many roguelikes, I'll be honest. But I do know that a decent amount of them have permanent upgrades. And it's just a constant upgrade cycle and constantly running through enemies until you have a good run. And it's basically just that gameplay loop. Now, for this game, I'm leaning more towards TMNT Splintered Fate's gameplay style rather than Vampire Survivors. So just keep that in mind. And now, with all that said and done, let's get into how this game would work. First of all, the game would be very sprite-based. However, not really like CD classic games sprite-based, more like Sonic Advance, I guess. Sonic Battle, Sonic Advance, like that. Yeah. Additionally, I think the story would be rather simple, with Metal Sonic just trying to prove himself as the superior Sonic, blah blah blah. Outside of Eggman's jurisdiction originally, I'll get into the story, but first, I think it's actually best to talk about the gameplay. Of course, with game design comes a UI design, so I actually kind of have two UI design ideas, rough sketches, to showcase here. So the first UI design is this, and it's pretty messy, admittedly. Due to that, I decided to make this heavily simplified version of it. In this game, rings and HP would be separated, kind of. The rings could be used as shields, holds for in case metal needs them to not take damage, but it's not required. Plus, they can be used as currency and stuff. More rings at the end of the run probably means good stuff, more ability to purchase. And then, of course, HP is just if you take hits, you lose it, and if you take enough hits, then you die. Plus, there is this combo counter for, literally just how big your combo of damaging enemies is. It's kind of just, that. Also, I had this kind of interesting idea for Metal's UI where the Metal Sonic head that's shown next to the HP, as it loses a quarter of its HP, it becomes more and more damaged. And then, after all the HP is gone, it's just completely broken. There would also be the S to F ranking, which would be time-based but also score-based, similar to games like Unleashed, There are 3 ways to get score in this game. First of all, beating the heck out of enemies. Second of all, grabbing rings. And third of all, modifiers. Now these modifiers would range from just making the enemies more powerful to making your abilities take longer to recharge. Speaking of the abilities, these are the abilities that aren't just basic Metal Sonic slashes and stuff, such as Chaos Control and Defense Matrix. And he gets hits them through upgrades, he's in the hub world, but also through just completing different stages and defeating different bosses. Adding legacy here, I forgot to mention that only 3 abilities could be equipped at a time. But yeah, 3 special abilities equipable at a time. Now, in the game, a complete run is 9 stages, 1 being the intro stage, which will always be the same stage, the 7 in between being the Chaos Emerald stages, which will be randomized and have different boss fights, hates for you to get the abilities from, and then the final stage where you fight Sonic himself. For the purposes of this video, let's just say all the stages that are available in the game are going to just be pre-existing Sonic levels. I know how tired people are of them, but like, come on. Like, it's the simplest option here. With maybe a few new ones just for an excuse to have characters that don't really have like full-on set locations, like Silver, to just be there. And I have a few ideas for a few locations, such as Scrapnik Island from the Sonic IW comics, where you would be able to fight Mecha Sonic and also Mecha Knuckles and also E117. Additionally, we could have Spiral Hill Village from the Sonic IW comics and have you fight the Neo Diamond Cutters. Obviously, it would be the hardest fight in the game because Whisper's there, but you know. Oh, and of course, there'd be iconic locations like Angel Island, and you can fight Knuckles there, blah blah blah. Adding legacy again. Apparently, past me forgot to mention about how the enemies of the area that aren't the bosses would roughly be restoration soldiers, frickin' scrapniks, whatever fits the location. Going back to what I was saying about the difficulty, there would probably be like 5 difficulty options. One for just wanting to have an easy little playthrough, one for her just having an easy playthrough, one for having a medium difficulty playthrough, one for having a difficult playthrough, and one for having a Dark Souls playthrough. And of course, you need a little area to chill out after each run, don't ya? And plus all the upgrades. And therefore, the hub world, it's pretty much just being a random Eggman base. There isn't much else to it. And in the hub world, you can use the rings and some scraps and pieces that you get throughout the runs, and with Sage and Orbot and Cubot in order to get upgrades. These upgrades would be pretty basic stat upgrades like defense and health and attack. Also, this game would have customization for if you want to change how Metal looks. Want to give him the patterns of Metal Sonic Mach 3.0? Go right ahead. Want to change the color palette of him? Go right ahead. Want to give him a trench coat? Go right ahead. Oh, and I like stories, so why don't we talk about the story of this game, shall we? Metal awakens to find that the Doctor is sort of missing right now, though he is stated he will return via notes. However, this causes Metal to believe, hey, why don't I go try and fight Sonic, cause why the hell not, you know? Metal is able to track down the 7 Chaos Emeralds as well, all of them going to the 7 randomized stages that you would go to in a run. Additionally, he's able to convince Sage to help him out, and Orbot and Cubot just decide to help him out because why not, you know? And if you're wondering how Metal was possibly able to convince Sage to go against Eggman's jurisdiction, I don't know, maybe like something in his code mind thing that she reads says, hey, this would probably make Eggman proud or something, I don't know. I'm not going to think too much about this. I'm not writing the full story anyway. So Metal Sonic does the stages, beats the bosses, that are Sonic's friends, and also maybe some enemies if he goes to like the Lost Hex or something. And then he gets all 7 Chaos Emeralds and then finally meets up with Sonic. So Metal Sonic kind of sort of turns super and beats Sonic, and when he's about to land the finishing blow, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, he show up and jump him and send him back to Eggman. Now, Eggman is obviously pissed the hell off about Metal deciding to do this out of his jurisdiction. However, he also realizes that Metal was pretty close. So he decides, hey, you know what? Sure, I'll give you the go ahead to, try something like this again. However, you are listening to me this time, mister. So yeah, another harder run, and it's basically the same until you get to the final Sonic fight, where instead of just being whatever Super Metal Sonic, you become Super Neo Metal Sonic. And Eggman also helps you, but also in exchange, Sonic goes super, and every single one of the friends that you fight in the game also joins in, and you're being jumped by everyone. Somehow Metal would win still, and then as he's about to again land the finishing blow on Sonic, everyone pretty much gets up and jumps him again, and he's unprepared and he loses. Yep, it's pretty much like that. And that's pretty much the ending of the story. Goes back to normal after that. Final notes, there'd probably be some kind of arcade mode as well for people who just want to keep playing through multiple whole runs and just having more entertainment from the game, and probably a few extra things just sprinkled in there. But yeah, that's basically the premise of the game. Well, that was a lot of talking, but the video is coming to an end now. So thanks for watching, have a good day, night, evening, whatever, and all hail Whisper.